Hello, this is Donnie Swagger, and welcome to this week's edition of our Webisode. Now, what do I mean by Webisode? Because there's so many of you that may be joining us for the first time. Well, we're not able to cover everything on television as it regards the information that we want to bring you with Preachers, Patriots, and Providence. And so on the Webisodes that's found on the website at www.donnieswaggart.org, you can see the icon that says Preachers, Patriots, and Providence. Click on there, and it will give you a lineup of everything that we have. You're going to be hearing much more in-depth conversations with our many guests. We're so glad to have our art director for Preachers, Patriots, and Providence, Jonathan Snowden. Jonathan, I have to admit, I never knew you were an artist.
Yeah, I took a bit of a hiatus for a couple of years while I was in Bible college, and I didn't pick it up until after I finished.
So you've been drawing all your life then?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Now,
sir.
are you classically trained, or is it just something that came natural to you?
It was something that appealed to me a lot, and it was something that came natural to me, and it was something that I realized that I wanted to get better, and so I practiced a lot when I was growing up.
So how many years have you been doing it?
So I started since I was about 5 or 7, so at least about 22 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. And was there an inspiration behind that? Was it just something that caught your attention? Is it something that you recognized at an early age you had the ability to do this?
Well, it was something that I've always had a thing where I would see something that I thought was cool or I liked, and I wanted to take it apart, try to put it back together or put it back together a different way. And with that kind of mentality, I, saw images and I saw things that I thought looked cool, and I was like, I can replicate that. I can, redo that. So for me, it's always sort of just been a problem-solving type of ability, I guess, in my viewpoint.
So growing up, you would see a picture that you liked,
Yeah.
and you just wanted to see if you could draw it.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I probably let's get real. If I can draw it better.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely.
The art form that you've chosen, if people will notice, is that you're very bold in your lines. You're very bold in your facial features of many of our historical characters. Was that done out of personal taste, or was there a reason that you chose that way to be a stronger look instead of a softer look?
Yeah. Well, I study a lot of different styles. I like to look at a lot of different people's work, for the most part, and there's a lot of things that interest me in different art styles. And whenever we were talking about this particular program and how we wanted to do it, we sat down and we just kind of went over things that he would like. I kind of went over things that I thought would look great with what he thought looked appropriate for the show. And we came up with the style for the show. And it didn't really cement and it didn't really gel together for me personally until we got to the one illustration of Martin Luther nailing the thesis on the church door. And after that, it was a lot easier to always come back to this particular style.
I always joke around people. I know what to do in front of the camera. Don't ask me what goes on behind the camera because I can't explain it. I'm sure that when you're working on a program, a segment, they give you a script.
Yes, sir.
Then they tell you, we need pictures that illustrate this, this, and this. And when they do that, do you go and look at possibly other pictures that have been done of that to get kind of an idea of where to start from? Or does it something pop into your mind and then after you draw it, you go look and compare?
It really varies from illustration to illustration. I think for the most part for this program, it was a lot of we really want this to be conveyed in this scene, so let's try to make sure that whatever the composition is, let's try to make sure that this point gets across. And then we would do research, or I would do research on other illustrations that were done. First of all, to make sure that I'm not, directly copying a composition or accidentally copying a composition. But secondly, just to kind of make sure that certain elements need to be in place, that the time period is represented in a proper way, and then from there we kind of submit the rough draft, and then we just plow forward into the final drawing.
Since you've been working on the program and looking back on it now, which one of your illustrations has been and was the most challenging for you?
You kind of have this feeling, at least I do, every time that an illustration is done, or every time you're about to approach one, that your biggest fear is that you didn't represent it properly, or that you didn't sell it. And I think that the only one that would even come close to being considered difficult would be the illustration that I used for the intro. Just because we wanted to make sure that the illustration it had everything that we wanted in it. It took a lot of research to just sort of make sure that we would get all the different elements that we want to represent into one illustration. And I think if anything like that, that was probably the most difficult one.
Really what you're saying is you want the person that sees that drawing, that it tells them a story.
Yes, yes.
The story is there. They see. They don't have to wonder, well, what is this about?
Yes.
They know exactly
Yes.
what it is.
Yes.
And that's hard to do.
Yes.
That's very, very hard to do. Final question. What's been your favorite drawing out of all the ones that you've done?
Well, it was the hardest, and it is also my favorite drawing, the intro illustration. Just because even though it was hard work, it actually took me about 2 weeks. It was also my favorite because I couldn't be more happier.
How many illustrations did you tear up and throw away?
Well, I guess you could say that digitally I threw away about 3 because they just weren't working, and like I said, like before, the composition was the most key thing, and trying to tell a story, in illustration.
How long does it take you to do an illustration, from beginning to end?
Like I said before, it really depends on what we're trying to represent. If it's maybe 2 characters and some sort of background, scene, different things like that. It can even be a little small crowd or something like that, something that doesn't take a lot of detail. Those usually only took about 3 days or so, just depending on how long it took to submit the rough draft of the illustration.
But would you read the script?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So you could get so you let the script influence how you drew the picture.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's the thing. Like whenever we would work on the rough drafts, I would talk to Simmons, and we would just sort of go over what it is that we need to represent here.
And when you say Simmons, you're speaking of Jonathan Simmons,
yes,
who
sir.
is our producer,
yes, sir.
of the show. And what everybody needs to understand as we close on this segment of how much a collaborative effort that this program is. And this is the first time that I've ever been involved in putting a program together like this, and I cannot express, I don't think I have the words to express at how proud that I am of all of the people, because it takes about 15 people working on this show to put it together. There's been a lot of work and a lot of labor and a lot of love that's gone into it, and I appreciate everyone. I want you to do me a favor to go to my website, www.donnieswaggart.org, and subscribe. It's free, but subscribe. And what do you mean? Why do I need to subscribe? We will send you notices of when we have new material added to the website concerning preachers, Patriots, and Providence, whether it's an interview or whether it's Take 5 or other things that we're doing. Once again, this is Donnie Swaggart, my very special guest, Jonathan Snowden, and we'll see you on the next Webisode.